Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty out there. A report that claims to have found a literal formula, a recipe, if you will, for a life that's just jam-packed with the supernatural.
So how are we going to explore this? Well, we're going to break down a case study on one person, a guy named Dakota Frandsen. According to this report, his life is just a magnet for paranormal stuff. And the researchers think they know exactly why. They believe they've cracked the code, found the formula. So let's dive in and see what they're talking about.
Okay, so first things first. If we're going to get our heads around these pretty big claims, we've got to start at the beginning. Let's look at this like a clinical case study, just the basic, raw data on the subject. So the report kicks off with the standard stuff, right? Name, date of birth, his height and weight, which, by the way, are pretty notable on their own. But you see that last one? O negative blood type? The report flags that as being super important. We'll circle back to why in a bit, but first, a detail about his family drops the first real bombshell of this whole story. Yeah, you read that right, 50. That's the estimated number of siblings from his parents' various relationships. I mean, that number alone just screams unconventional. It points to a really chaotic family situation. And for the researchers, this is pillar number one of their whole formula. So you have to ask, right? What does an environment like that do to a person? Well, according to the report, it creates a foundation built on instability and trauma. And this is what they call the nurture part of the supernatural equation. And look, the details in this report, they're pretty tough. It talks about a really difficult birth that kind of soured his relationship with his mom from day one, leading to physical and emotional abuse. And the stuff with his dad's side of the family is just horrific. His father ended up in prison for abusing Dakota's own half-sister. Just awful. The report does mention one bright spot, though. His maternal grandfather, who stepped in and became this really important mentor for him.
All right, so that's the nurture piece of the puzzle, an incredibly difficult upbringing. Now let's flip over to the nature side of things, because the report claims his genetic blueprint, well, it's every bit as unusual as his childhood.
And this is where things get wild. The ancestral lines mentioned in this report are just incredible. They're talking about a direct line back to Mary, Queen of Scots. They even say he might have seen her ghost at Stirling Castle. Then there's a link to Mummy Juanita, that famous Incan sacrifice, with the suggestion that he gets these flashes of genetic memory from her. But the connection that really makes the researchers' ears perk up, that has to do with the Salem witch trials. So check this out. The report draws this really fascinating line. It shows that Frandsen is descended from not one, but two accused witches from Salem, Anne Foster and Sarah Osborne. Now hold on to that second name, Sarah Osborne, because it turns out she is also a direct ancestor of Ed Warren. Yeah, that Ed Warren, of the Warrens. For the people writing this report, that's no coincidence. That's a huge clue. Okay, so we've had historical royalty, we've had connections to famous paranormal investigators, but this is the point where the report just goes for it. It pivots away from recorded human history and makes claims about a lineage that might not be, well, fully human. They bring up the Anunnaki. Now, you might know them as deities from ancient Mesopotamia, but this report frames them as something else entirely, an alien race of master geneticists. The theory they put on the table is that Frandsen could be a direct descendant. And hey, remember that O-negative blood type we mentioned at the start? Well, this is where it comes back. The report suggests it could be a marker, a fingerprint even, of that ancient genetic tinker. And it gets even more specific. The theory zeroes in on his paternal grandmother. The claim is that she was abducted by ETs, and that her genetic material was used in a hybridization program. A program that allegedly resulted in a whole new hybrid race, part human, part gray alien, known as the Essassani. So let's just recap. We have this unbelievable foundation of nurture, the chaotic upbringing, and nature, the supposed supernatural bloodline. But the report says that's not enough. You need one more ingredient, a third crucial piece. You need a trigger. And that trigger, according to them, is trauma.
It's the catalyst that supposedly flips the switch on all these latent abilities. And this timeline from the report is pretty chilling because it tries to draw a straight line between specific traumas and paranormal events. Like at just 3 years old, he was stabbed by his stepmother, and that's when he supposedly had his first psychic vision. At age 9, he sees an apparition. Then at 14, finding out the horrible truth about his father, that's pinned as the moment he just went all in on the supernatural. And then, later in life, the absolutely unimaginable horror of having his fiancée murdered, another major life-altering catalyst.
Okay, so that brings us all the way to the grand finale, the report's big conclusion, the final formula that attempts to tie all of these, frankly, unbelievable elements together into one single theory. And the theory they land on is this. It's not just one of these things. It's not just the wild ancestry or the chaotic childhood or the staggering amount of trauma. No, the report concludes that it's the unique, potent, almost explosive combination of all three of those things happening to one person that creates this anomaly, the specialist of the strange. So what are we to make of all this? The report on Dakota Frandsen, with all its absolutely mind-bending claims, really leaves us with one heck of a question. Are the secrets to the supernatural somewhere out there with ghosts and aliens? Or are they actually hidden deep inside of us, in our own DNA, in our own life stories? It kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of formula, what kind of potential might be waiting inside of you?